When I was told I'm going to play a game about corrupt organizations, child mind control, AI taking over and threatening humanity, and nefarious groups profiting from war, I was like, damn, when's the 2023 simulator coming out? But no, apparently in 2013, a small game by the name of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance would surface and predict the future in the form of an action-adventure hack and slash. Now I come into the picture almost 10 years later to see how many things it predicted accurately and what this game is all about. The first thing we're gonna talk about is the story. Now this game is about 8 hours long and you can probably do a 10-minute video on the story alone. I mean, many have. But let me sum it up for you in 60 seconds. Ready? Go! You play as Raiden, aka Jack the Ripper, who works for the company Maverick. On a mission you encounter a group of baddies working for Desperado, an organization that profits from chaos and wants the war to keep going. The baddies kidnap the man you were tasked to protect, kill him, and proceed to mess Raiden up. Bad. Raiden sets out on the mission to hunt down the people responsible for this execution with his new and improved armament. Desperado learn of our quest to hunt them down and send an AI-controlled dog Blade Wolf to stop us, which we defeat and train to be our own. Later on, we fight a boss, kill her, and the bad guys go boom. Our next mission leads us to Mexico, where we meet George. He's a bit off. He tells us that Desperado are kidnapping kids for their brains so they can train them and sell them. We save the kids who were not harvested yet and learn that Desperado are not working alone but with the World Marshal. Raiden understands that Maverick cannot oppose the World Marshal as they are backed by media and government support, and decides to resign and get support from Maverick on a hush-hush. We continue our travels, and amidst the fight, Raiden has what can only be described as a mental breakdown and goes back to his roots of Jack the Ripper. We kill a few bosses, Monsoon, Sundowner, and Samuel, and then we travel to Pakistan to meet Armstrong, the head of everything. We fight his giant robot Excelsis. He shows us his butt, which is probably hard as fuck because of his nanomachine son. We kill him, good guys win, GG. Damn, that was 69 seconds. I wonder who set that up. Alright, now most of the story is provided to you through these action cutscenes and horribly long phone calls that just go on and on forever. Seriously, it's actually ridiculous. Now I have to say, for a game that came out in 2013, these action cutscenes are graphic, intense, and overall sick. I mean, really high quality stuff. Now when it comes to the story, to me there's nothing special about it. I mean, maybe it's because I didn't play the other games. The premise itself is cool, but I think the execution maybe was a little bit lackluster. They didn't associate you enough with the characters, they didn't get you attached enough, but the story is fine. There's nothing wrong about it, that's for sure. Alright, next up we're gonna cover 2 points at once because these two kind of go hand in hand. Of course, I'm talking about the combat and the soundtrack. This game is very unapologetic about signaling to you from the very beginning that aggressiveness is highly rewarded. It's complete action 100% of the time, no backing down no matter what. Even your block button is your attack. And guess what? In order to activate it, you have to walk forward towards your opponent. And I have to say, there's something special about a combat system like that. It's what you would expect from a hack and slash combat, but cranked up to 11. Sick combos and ways to juggle enemies, you have unique weapons and skills you can unlock, but without a doubt, my favorite would have to be the massive sword that you wield that you can basically cut down everything with. You can unsheath it in any point in time, and if you have enough fuel, you enter a slow state of the game where you can slice up your enemies to tiny pieces. If enemies have been hurt enough in a certain body part, it will turn gray, and if you whip out your sword and slice at that location, you can chop that part off. Also, at times a small square will appear, and if you cut at that location, you will get a prompt that literally makes you grab your opponent's spine, snap it in your hand, and you drain its power. I mean, it's sick shit. It's those levels of intricacies and added parts to the game that make the combat system so sick, in my opinion. Now add to an already impressive combat system a soundtrack that takes the game, picks it up, and proceeds to kick it to the fucking moon. I mean, holy, this soundtrack is amazing. Rock and roll to carry you through the intense combat, the guitars are going crazy, the singers screaming the lyrics, and in the meanwhile, you're fighting one of the most intense fights of your life, and in the background, the song just goes... It's amazing how much a soundtrack can affect the game. They knocked this one out of the park. Now, as far as how the fights themselves actually go, I understand the need to throw content to fill up space and allow you to acquire resources to level up, but at times it felt like they were just throwing more of the same stuff at you to fill up airtime, and to make it harder, they just added another mob. We'll get to the bosses soon, but for now there's not much else I can say about the combat system other than it's really fun and the soundtrack is incredible, but it can get repetitive at times. Also, the camera sucks, like real bad. Sense of humor. Alright, one thing that has surprised me a lot is how silly and funny this game is. I mean, you can be in a box, a barrel, you have enemies hiding inside of boxes, goofy dialogues, this guy who they seem to go out of their way to make him look as stupid as possible and not believable as a human being, and the cringe-inducing yet somehow dope as fuck one-liners.
This isn't my sword.
This game has a really good sense of humor, and for a game that is mostly revolved around running and slicing your opponents down with your sword, it's definitely a breath of fresh air. One of my favorite things they added to the game is a secret room with watermelons inside. Now, as a secret side quest of my own, throughout the entire playthrough, I tried to get something chopped up to 900 parts, and I was never able to get it until this room. This room was just filled with watermelons that you can stand and slice all day long, and my dream was achieved here. But then, the game showed its true colors, and I got bombarded by 3 giant mechs in a tiny room with no way to win, and somehow, I still pulled it off. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this game made me laugh on multiple occasions, sometimes through sheer stupidity, and sometimes through intended humor. Extra content. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance comes included with 2 DLCs that open up after you defeated the main game. One that lets you play as Blade Wolf and another one for Jetstream Sam. Now, for obvious reasons, those are 2 great additions to the game. They add depth to the story and allow you to try a different playstyle with some great characters. But, and there's a huge but, whilst I was playing the Blade Wolf DLC, I ran into a mission that required me to kill some enemies and pick up a security code that they drop. After doing it for the first time and not getting the security code, I decided to do it over and over again, and for some reason, I still didn't get the security code. So what I did is I looked online, and apparently there is a bug that if you finish the game and didn't watch the credits until the end, you will get no drops in the DLC. So it was at this point where I was like, fine, I'll go back, I'll finish the fight with Armstrong again, I'll watch the credits, and then I can play the DLC. But when I went back to continue the story, it just sent me into a new game cycle altogether. It just didn't let me continue from the last checkpoint. So I went into the Jetstream Sam DLC, hoping that there's no need for a security code at any part of that DLC. I played the game, got to a point where I needed the security code, killed the guards that needed to drop it, got no drop, and rage quitted. So yeah, coding problems. Which leads me to the last thing I want to talk about, the bosses. I've had my fair share of experiences with bosses. Good ones, bad ones, ones I'll remember forever, and ones I'll regret ever facing. Now, as far as the enemies in Metal Gear Rising go, I can't give too much credit apart from 3 really. I don't think there is a bad boss per se in this game, but only 3 really stood out for me in the total of 8. First off, at number 3 we have Blade Wolf. I remember when I first started fighting this boss, I still didn't know how to block, and only about an hour after did I actually realize how to. Overall, I really liked his moveset, and fighting an AI-controlled dog is just a genius idea. Also, the fact that you get to tame it afterwards adds an extra level of depth. Great boss. At number 2 we have Armstrong. This fight is super cool after the lame fight with Excelsis. No cap, that fight was ass. But then he pops out and reveals his nanomachines, which is a sick way to start off a fight. His attacks and skill set is very wide and eye-catching. I love the little interactions you can have in the middle of the fight, and the part where he goes up on the rubbles and throws blocks at you that you can cut off. Oh, and in the background you just hear the music going crazy. I mean, this boss fight is just a textbook boss fight. Every single combat element you might want will be answered in this fight, and despite all of those things, Sam still comes in at number 1. I mean, the fight with Sam is special. You meet him in a very early part of the game and he's been causing you trouble since the beginning. You fight him once and lose badly, and then when you get another opportunity to fight him, you get to fight his boss instead. And when it finally happens, the setup is amazing. You see him befriending your dog, speaking in a relatable way, and then it's comboed with the breathtaking scenery, incredible moveset and flashy lightnings, and 100% the best song in the game blasting in the background. Oh my god, this fight is one to remember for sure. Thank you for this one. No joke. Overall, it's a great experience and it still holds true in 2023, 10 years after its release. If you haven't played it until now, I honestly recommend you to go play it. I don't think you will regret it. But that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, stay natty, peace out.